Hi, my name is Gabriel, and today I'm going to be presenting my final project on the Piazza del Duomo de Firenze. So the Piazza del Duomo began its construction around the end of the 13th century as a religious center. Around the cathedral bell tower next to the cathedral was designed by Giotto around 1334. The famous dome behind the cathedral was designed by Filippo Brunelleschi and was completed in 1436. The Duomo in general has a lot of Renaissance influence, but also some medieval influence with a lot of Gothic style in the interior and exterior. The structures that we are going to discuss today are Giotto's Campanile, the Cathedral of Santa Maria de' Fiori, and Brunelleschi's dome. The main attraction of the Piazza del Duomo is the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, with the Duomo behind it. It is a grand church built in the Italian Gothic style. The cathedral's dimensions are quite impressive as well, as it has a length of 502 feet, a width of 90 meters, and a height of 375 feet, being its highest point. The Duomo is a fascination in the world of architecture because it's made of two layers, an inner and an outer layer, and is the largest dome of its size. Next to the Duomo is Giotto's Campanile, a beautiful bell tower that stands at around 270 feet, with 4 levels of different sculptures and panels that show off Giotto's incredible artistry. So now let's talk about Giotto's Campanile. So the facade of the Campanile is divided into 4 different levels. The bottom 2 levels mostly have depictions of biblical figures in the form of statues as well as panels. The statues in the bottom include the 4 writers of the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew is depicted with a book to symbolize his role as a gospel writer, while Mark is depicted with a winged lion, Luke is depicted with a book or an ox, and John is depicted with a book or an eagle. As you go up the Campanile, you can see that the facade begins to show more panels with reliefs of mythological scenes, allegories, and multiple representations of biblical scenes that show virtue. At the very top of the facade, there are panels that depict life of Florence and social aspects of the time. The inside of the Campanile includes 414 steps in order to reach the top, which I had the very pleasure of climbing up, and I must say that it is well worth the view. The observation deck at the top gives you a panoramic view of the whole city of Florence and a great view of the Duomo. The interior of the Campanile is also decorated with lots of architectural elements that reflect the style of Renaissance period, such as arches and a lot of vaulted ceilings, which give it a very typical look of the time. Here's another view from the top. You could see the Duomo there very well, and it's very Renaissance / medieval style, covered in marble and brick. And it really just gives you a perfect view. It also looks great during the sunset. So now moving on to the Cathedral of Santa Maria de' Fiori. The facade of the cathedral is one of the most intricate and interesting that you will ever see. It is covered in marble of green, white, and pink, making it so captivating yet so easily organized. It seems so fluid at the same time. The style of the facade is mostly Renaissance and includes lots of statues with biblical figures such as the Virgin Mary and others which we will discuss later. The facade has been continually changed over the years, but the one that we see today is designed by De Fabris, a neo-Gothic architect of his time. It's adorned with some of the greatest Tuscan artists of the time. The giant bronze door in the front is decorated with bronze and includes scenes from the Bible as well as a lot of important religious figures. So now let's talk about the statues on the facade. These statues mostly included work from Andrea Pisano, Francesco Talenti, and Giovanni de Balduccio. These were very famous sculptures from this time, and it includes works such as the Virgin Mary, Leonardo da Vinci, and a lot of saints and prophets of the time that were considered very important to Florentine culture. Not only did it include prominent figures from religion at the time, but also figures from Florence in general, as the Florentine people wanted to honor the most important and influential people that helped build the cathedral, such as Leonardo da Vinci and other rich people from that time. Inside the cathedral, it is a little underwhelming, but it has a Gothic style with lots of arches and columns, which include a lot of biblical episodes and scenes from the time. A lot of harmony, and everything just goes well together. It flows very well, as you can see in the picture there. So now let's talk about the best part, the Duomo. The Duomo is decorated with brick and marble from the exterior. It is really a marble to look at from the bottom, and even better to look at from the Campanile of Giotto. Although it started with a Gothic style, the artists of the 14th century decided that they wanted to go a different route and go with a more Roman style, which is why they began to implement more brick, which is eventually when Filippo Brunelleschi had the privilege of finishing the cathedral with brick. Brunelleschi also had the privilege of sculpting the statues of the Duomo and designed the innovative project to make the Florentine cathedral the largest of the time. The interior of the Duomo includes a fresco, which is one of the most influential and important of its time, made by Giorgio Vasari. It includes a lot of biblical scenes, such as the Last Judgment. It also includes Christ at the center. He is surrounded by a ton of angels and the damned of hell. In total, there are 48 angels, 235 souls, 21 personifications, 102 religious figures, 35 damned, 13 different portraits, 14 monsters, 23 cherubs, and 12 animals in total, making it one of the most packed frescoes that you will ever see. So here are some of my favorite images from the Duomo. As you can see to the left, you have the whole fresco in general, as you see Jesus in the middle. In the fresco, you can see Jesus also portrayed as more of a king, which is how Christianity tended to see him. The Last Judgment on the top right is one of the most gruesome forms that you will ever see the Last Judgment in, as you see a demon eating humans, as well as just gruesome images of hell. The fresco, being from the 19th century, being neo-Gothic, goes to show why it is so dark with such realism and intense images, which is really what the Gothic era was, a lot of intense imagery, such as the ones that we see here, and a lot of imagery of hell, which is something that became more prominent throughout the years. The visit to the Duomo was one of my favorite in all of Italy, and I can truly say that the Duomo is worth every second that you have to wait in the gruesome line to get in. The frescoes are really a marvel to look at, and you've never seen a facade so intricate like the one of Santa Maria de' Fiori. Thank you for watching, and I hope you get to visit the beautiful Piazza del Duomo when you get the chance in Florence.